So, back at Lilydale Flying School after God knows how long, ready to take on the next lesson. I think it's lesson number 3, proper lesson number 3. Had my trial flight and then I did 2 lessons and COVID shut everything down, so we couldn't do anything. And now we're back to do lesson 3, which I think, off the top of my head, I probably should have looked, is straight and level, so flying straight and level. I could be wrong, but let's go in, let's check it out, go meet up with Frank and let's get flying.
The ground's pretty important because that's something we can crash into. While we're up in the sky, we're not going to crash into anything, maybe another aeroplane perhaps, we're really not paying attention, but the ground. And we fly the aircraft with reference to the horizon. Here's the horizon. Now, you remember that's kind of the picture we're going to get. Now remember, in the effects of controls lesson, where to turn the aircraft, we roll the aircraft, we want the picture to go that way. That's turning. If we kick the rudder pedal, the nose will start to do this. You know, that's kind of your rudder pedal. And then of course, if we push the right pedal, the left wing will start to accelerate and it will develop more lift and it will start to lift. And the secondary effect will be it'll start to roll and then it'll start to do that. You see, if we don't do anything. So you can see that we had our primary effect with rolling the aircraft, which is we roll the aircraft and then the nose yaws in the direction of the turn. The secondary effect of the rudder, after booting in some right rudder, of course the nose moves, it yaws, and then the aircraft will commence to roll. So you can see there's primary and secondary effects. Now, how we know all this is going on is, of course, we're looking at the horizon. Now, when we're turning the aircraft, this is a little ahead of where we need to be, but I'm showing you the reference why, when we go into our lesson day, I'm going to really be attitude, 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 attitude. It's just going to be a repetitious chant, you see. And the attitude is the relationship of the horizon, the nose of the aircraft to the horizon. Now, if we're flying along like that, that's a low nose attitude. We're flying along like that, that's a high nose attitude. Now, we could fly like that without climbing by just simply backing the power off and we'd fly along slower. We wouldn't be climbing, we'd just be flying with a high nose attitude. So when I talk about attitude, I'm not talking about kicking the furniture around the house, I'm talking about the relationship of the nose to the horizon. And when we want to turn the aircraft, remember how the aircraft will roll and it'll yaw. It'll actually yaw downwards and we'll end up at a spiral. So as we're rolling the aircraft, we're going to apply a little bit of back pressure. It's going to hold the nose up. Or more particularly, we're going to arrest the nose from dropping rather than hold it up. And your sight picture is going to go like that. Right, so the thing is that when we come out of the turn, we're going to want our attitude back, our straight and level attitude back. And that's why it's important to know what the straight and level attitude is. Because if we're climbing, we want to get to straight and level, we're going to need to lower the nose, let the speed build up a bit, bring the power back, set it at a cruise power, and we're all good. Same thing is that if we retard power and we hold the nose at that same attitude, the aircraft will slow down. You see, so everything basically that's going to happen in this lesson is going to relate to the attitude. Now, here we have our plane, and we have our 4 forces. We've got thrust wanting to pull us along, we've got drag wanting to inhibit the thrust, stop the airplane from speeding up, we've got the lift that's being produced by the wing, and we've got the weight of the aircraft. Now, if the thrust is equaling drag, we're going to stay at the same speed. We're not going to speed up, we're not going to slow down. And if lift is equaling weight, we're not going to go up or down. We're just going to be straight and level, and we're going to be at a cruise. Now, in order to obtain that, we will have a cruise power setting, which in this aircraft let's call it 4700 RPM. Now, if you're holding the straight and level attitude, what you're going to get at 47 RPM is about 80 to sort of 84 knots, depending on how much mass we're carrying. You know, the heaviness of the load is going to determine the airspeed, because if we've got a very heavy load, we might be flying at a slightly higher nose attitude, which means that the aircraft will slow down a little bit. Because remember, you know, the up and down stick is the throttle, and if we pull on the nose, the nose will come up. The aircraft will initially gain a little bit of height, and then it'll just slow down and stay at that altitude. So, remembering that our cruise power, to fly straight and level, we're going to set RPM at about 4700. We're going to hold a straight and level attitude, which will become apparent to you once we're up there. We'll experiment. We'll find what works for you for that attitude. And as the aircraft settles down, there'll be an airspeed and there'll be an attitude that will relate to that power setting. Now, as long as we don't change anything, it'll stay there pretty much indefinitely. Of course, if we raise the nose, the aircraft will slow down, and if we lower the nose, of course, the aircraft will speed up. So you can see that for flying straight and level, we need to have a consistent attitude, we need to have a consistent airspeed, and we need to have a consistent RPM. Now, if we're flying along straight and level, and you suddenly notice the airspeed going up, probably means we're going down. It means the attitude's falling away. Now, these aircraft are really twitchy in the pitching plane. You don't have to do much here for stuff to start happening here. So, essentially what we're going to do is as we get to the top of our climb, we're going to lower the nose. We have a little mnemonic we use, which is ASPT, which is attitude first. And we'll go into more into this in the climbing and descending lesson, but I'm just sort of preempting what's going to happen here. We lower the nose to the cruising attitude. We let the speed build up a little bit, that's the S. We then reduce the power. We haul back a decent handful of power, and then we just wait and see what that ends up at. Because if we pull the power back and then we obsess about the RPM indicator, we're not looking at the plane, and it's going to take some time for the aircraft to settle down. And then, of course, when we're all settled, we will then adjust the trim control so that you can kind of take the pressure off the stick, and it'll stay there by itself. Trimming the aircraft is extremely important in being able to maintain straight and level, as is maintaining consistent RPM. It takes a little while for it to settle down, so it's a little twitchy could easily take you 20 to 30 seconds for the whole thing to completely just become comfortable and stable, and you should get to a point where you can pretty much take your hand off it and it'll stay there. So we'll be doing that in cruise. We'll then, after you're comfortable with that and you've got a good sight picture, we're going to start messing with it a little bit, in that I'll start reducing power and I'll get you to retrim the aircraft at a slower airspeed and hold height. We'll also do it at higher engine speeds as well, so that you essentially what you'll get, what we'll have by the end of the lesson is that you can set the speed and trim of the aircraft to be able to maintain consistent straight and level. Now, sounds easy. There's a little bit to it, and after a while you get a feel for it. You're flying along and you hear the engine suddenly start speeding up, probably means the nose has gone down. Because apart from the airspeed increasing, the engine RPM will increase. So that's what we're going to be doing. Remember that our straight and level is related strongly to the whole thrust, drag, weight, lift series of relationships. And if you change any of those, you will have an effect on the others, which will then have an effect on the attitude of the aircraft, and that's your clue that something's happened. Anyway, we'll leave it at that.
Right, so we're in the plane. We're about to go through our pre-flight checklist. before we head off. Frank's just gone inside to get another checklist sheet before we get going. Haven't flown for a little while, so I'm feeling a little apprehensive. Well, not apprehensive, nervous maybe. I'm flying again tomorrow, and the wind's starting to pick up, which means it'll probably be a little bit bumpy. Hope not. Here we go, that's another lesson done with our man Frank. And straight and level. How'd I go? Did I do alright?
Kicked ass.
Kicked ass on the straight and level. Another lesson
Really
tomorrow.
Good. It was really good.
Really good, right. So hope you enjoyed it.
Under difficult conditions too.
It was a bit bumpy. I wasn't as nervous when I got up there as I thought I would be. So tomorrow is our next lesson, and let's see how we go there. Have fun.